Well, hello everyone. This is Doug Mainers with Connected Investors. I want to welcome you to the Wholesale Mastery Training. This is the training that we get into wholesaling. We walk you through how to get up and running, what to do. We hit on different topics every single week. It's also appropriate for the fix and flipper, even the buy and hold. If it's a nice topic, we are talking about how much do I offer for the property. So that is our goal today, is to walk you through how much do I offer on the property, to show you how to get that up and running. This is a question I get a lot from our members. They are always interested in knowing, how do I make an offer on a property? How much do I offer? How do I decide? How do I handle that contract? Step by step, what do I need to do? And that's what we're doing today on this training, is we're walking you through how much do I offer on the property. So guys, just put your seatbelts on, get out paper and pen, pay attention, because really we're going to hit on this. If this is something you need to know, we're going to talk about it. So first of all, let me go ahead and talk about, I always say consult a real estate attorney, okay? When it comes to contracts and offers and things like that, I'm not an attorney, and I make a little joke here, and I don't play one on TV, okay? But it's, if you have questions about this, you really need to talk to a real estate attorney. I'm going to give you an overview of what most investors do and how they work and what they do, and you can follow that, obviously, what a lot of others do. But I always say, if you ever have a question about anything, consult a real estate attorney. So that being said, let's jump right in and get started. Really it breaks into three parts we're going to talk about today. First of all, determining the offer amount. How much do I offer? How do you know how much to offer? Well, you got to determine the offer amount. So that's an important piece. Number two, certain contingencies, some out clauses. I always get the question, what if I get on the contract and then I can't get out of it? What do I do? Well, what you're able to do in this situation is there's certain out clauses that you can put in your contract. And again, always talk to an attorney about legalities in your state, but I'm going to talk about some of those. And then the contract time management. You got to keep an eye on your dates, your closing date, your due diligence date, inspection dates, things of that nature. Do they have a foreclosure date? If they're a pre-foreclosure, maybe you've pinpointed them and they have a pre-foreclosure, you got to keep track of their closing date, or their foreclosure date or their sell date. So these are all important things that you got to think about in terms of time management. So that's an important piece. Okay, let's jump right in. Determining the offer amount. That's the first step, right? You got to think, how much am I going to offer on this property? So what you want to do first is you want to go ahead and decide, you got to have a kind of a guideline or something to go by, right, to determine what's going to be your offer price. So a lot of investors use what's called the after repair value to help them determine what that property is worth. Because the way the house sits there right now, it may have a market value. If it's in disrepair, it's not worth as much, obviously, if it's repaired. And so that's the market value versus the after repair value. That's the value the house is worth after the updates, after the upgrades, after the repairs have been made and the house has been updated. That's the ARV, or after repair value. Now, most investors use a formula. It's called the investor's formula, among other names. But the investor formula basically is you take the ARV, the after repair value, you multiply it times 70% or 0.7, right? And then you subtract that from that number, the rehab and holding costs, and that's going to give you your purchase price. So this is going to be what you're looking for, okay? Your purchase price or the offer price. So that's the ARV times 0.7 or 70% minus whatever the rehab is and the holding cost is what most investors are going to want to pay for that property. If you're a fix and flip, that's what you're going to want to pay, or a buy and hold, that's generally what you're going to pay. You may pay a little more if it has an excellent rental history or something like that. Now, as a wholesaler, you've got to take that purchase price that the investor will buy it for, and you got to minus your desired profit, and then that's your offer price. So you take the purchase price that you determine, minus that your desired, maybe $5,000, whatever you're going to get for a wholesale fee, assignment fee, and that's what you have to offer. So make sure you build in enough room for you to make your money as well. So that's your profit versus the investor buyer profit. So for instance, if the more the investor can make on a property, typically the more that I'm going to go ahead and offer that property to a investor. So in other words, if they can make a lot of money on that deal, I'm probably going to be offering them less than if they can make a lot more money, I'm going to get a higher assignment fee than if they don't, right? So that's an important piece to remember. So if they can, if they can make, if they can make 30 or 40,000, usually I'm going to go with a $5,000 assignment. But if they can make 50, 60, 70, 80,000 on that deal, you better believe I'm marking up my assignment, right? My assignment fee might be it might be 10, 15, 20. I've had wholesale deals that have done $20,000 assignment fees. So guys, and people don't mind paying it because they're going to make 60 or 80, so they don't mind paying that. So let's look at an everyday example of this. Okay, let's look at an example of what we're talking about here. So if I have a property, I'm going to keep the math real simple. Okay, if I have a property, remember it's the ARV. If I have a property that the after repair value is 100,000, okay, you're going to multiply that times 70% or 0.7. That's going to give you the value of 70,000. But remember, the investor formula also says that you've got to subtract out of that the holding costs, rehab costs, those types, if you know them. Now, if you don't know them, you can use the repair estimate app, have an estimate, somebody come out, give you a free estimate with the repair estimate app, and get that estimate and use that, right? But you may not know the holding costs of your investor that you're going to wholesale to. Now, if you're a fix and flipper, you probably already know your holding costs, what you're going to cost for insurances, taxes, your interest payments, those kinds of things. But let's say the rehab on this house is maybe 20,000, and then the holding costs are maybe another, 10,000. So now you've got to subtract out, right, $30,000 from the 70. So the maximum allowable offer, the MAO, is going to be only $40,000 on this property because it has a huge rehab that you need to do, and there's a lot of holding costs and things. Now, as a wholesaler, this is the amount that the potential buyer is going to pay for. But as a wholesaler, you need to make your money. So you actually need to get that property for, say, $35,000 because you need to make a $5,000, right? So this is just a general rule, a general guideline. Again, this has a little bit of flex. You may have an investor that might be willing to buy this property, for $50,000 instead of $40,000. So you may have a little play there. But this is kind of a good rule of thumb when you're dealing with property. It's called the 70% rule. It's kind of what you want to consider. So again, don't let that stop you from wholesaling a deal. If you can wholesale a deal, if you can get it under contract, put it out there. You may have a buy and hold investor that would pay more than $40,000 for that property. Okay. So that is all it is to determining the offer amount. It's very easy to do. Now we have an app called the Fast Formula app. Okay. So if you need help with this deal, we have an app. It's called the Fast Formula. You should have it in your set of apps. So if you don't have that app, you can reach out to us about getting that app. It's called the Fast Formulas app. That has where you can go in and determine the MAO, the maximum allowable offer, and that type of things. It's in that app, okay? And I think this app has recently been added to the Pinpoint Profits program. I know the Real Estate Riches folks have it. So you can use this app to help you run the numbers and get what you need to do in terms of that. So check out that Fast Formulas app. That's going to give you what you need to get up and running and run those numbers for that. So that's easy, right, for you to do. So that being said, now we've talked about, now you know why to offer because you're able to do that. Let's move on and talk about how to structure this contract. Well, there's certain contingencies you can put in a contract, right? And so in this situation, here's some common contingencies that are given. Now, you say, well, hold on, where do I get the contract from? You go to the Contract Genie. You go Contract Genie, you click on Real Estate, and then you're able to go ahead and reach out and get that contract. So let me just show you that real quick. I'm going to go over to the live site for just a moment. We're going to go over to Contract Genie. So when you're looking at your profile, here, I'll go over and I've logged into my live profile. You're going to click where it says Contract Genie. The Contract Genie is the app that has the pencil on it right here. Okay, that's your Contract Genie app. Now you can also click up here on the 4 green squares, open up your apps much larger if you like, and you can access it that way. So I can click up here on the 4 green squares. It's going to open up my apps larger, and then the Contract Genie app is going to be right here. Okay, just that easy. So once you click on that Contract Genie app, click here, it opens it up. You're going to click on Create Contract. There it is right there. So once I click on that Create Contract, there it is. Put a contract, Create Contract is loading, and here it is. So you've got several contracts you can use here. Now, let me go ahead and show you. The real estate contracts are right here. The business area is where they have the assignment contract. So the assignment contract is in the business area, okay? So let's go ahead and show you those real quick. So if I click on real estate, I click on more, it brings you into the real estate contract. I scroll down and you're going to see you've got a couple different options here. You've got the offer to purchase, and you also have the real estate purchase agreement. The offer to purchase, typically the one I use. You can use whichever one you want. Once you click on that, it'll have you select the state that you're doing business, that property is in, and you'll proceed from there. So that's how easy it is, and it walks you through how to fill that out and what to do. Now, for the assignment contract, you're going to click on business. You're going to click on more, and then you're going to scroll down, and you're going to see the assignment contract on the right-hand side, right here, assignment. You see that right there? That's the contract you're going to use as a wholesaler to assign that purchase and sale agreement to the buyer. You're going to assign your rights to that contract, purchase and sale agreement, that offer to purchase. You're going to assign your rights to that to the end buyer using an assignment contract and for an assignment fee that they're going to pay you to get that contract, okay? Now let me click on that assignment just to show you one thing here, right here. When you click on the assignment contract, here it is. You want to choose the one that says what type of assignment. You're assigning a contract. It's already pre-selected. You're assigning a contract. That's the one you're going to use. And again, remember, this is in the business section, not in the real estate section, but it works the same way. You're assigning that real estate contract to the buyer or investor, okay? So hopefully that helps to show you how easy it is to go ahead and get access to that contract. Now, here's what you want to make sure that you have. And again, this is what most investors do. I'm not an attorney. I can't give legal advice, but I can tell you what other investors do. And they use a contingency in that contract. It gives them an out just in case they can't either find a buyer if you're a wholesaler. If you're not going to buy it yourself as a wholesaler, now, number one, you may want to buy it yourself. If you're not going to buy it yourself, then you want to wholesale it to somebody else or assign it to somebody else. It gives you an out in case you can't find another buyer for it, right? For your contract. You can't assign your contract. Or if you get in there and the repairs are too massive or there's more repairs than you thought, you can get out of the contract. And so here's some common contingencies a lot of investors use. Maybe you put a loan approval in there that is a contingent on you getting approved of maybe a hard money loan or whatever. Maybe it's partner approval. Maybe you got a partner. You say, well, look, I got to get my partner's approval. We're going to go ahead and sign the contract, but it's contingent on that. A satisfactory inspection. You can set up a time frame to have a satisfactory inspection done, or a satisfactory appraisal, or the sale of another property, or the approval of the property used. Maybe it's a property that you want to use. Maybe you want to build a house on the adjacent lot, but you don't know if there's enough room there, or you don't know if that lot is big enough to do that. That's another thing you might want to consider. But one of the big things that you want to consider, you can put in what's called a due diligence period. And this is what a lot of investors do. It's called a due diligence, right? A due diligence period. And what that is a period of time. You set a time. It has a deadline that says you can get out of the contract for any reason or no reason during this particular time period. And you let them know, hey, I'm going to go ahead. I've got to do my inspection. Got to get a contractor in here. If you're a wholesale, you might want to get your buyers in there. Say, hey, I'm going to have to come out to your property a few times. I'm going to bring in some of my business associates, my contractors to take a look. I'm going to need some time to make sure that this property is going to work out for me. I'm going to need a due diligence period, right? Which basically means that, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to work my hardest during this time. Then I will lock it down and we'll move to closing. So normally this is going to be anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks if you can arrange it. And then you're going to need to allow at least another 2 weeks to get the closing done, okay? So your due diligence date will be 2 to 4 weeks from the time you sign the contract. Your closing date typically 4 to 6 weeks by the time you sign the contract. So this gives you time, if you're going to buy it, to do all your inspections, make sure you check the property out, go through it, check what all needs to be done to the property. If you're a wholesale, you can get some potential buyers in there, or whatever the case may be, okay? If you're a buy and hold, maybe you can start advertising, for a tenant contingent on, getting the property, subject to you getting the title, right? So guys, this is the common contingencies you can use. And that way you can get out of the contract if you need to. And so that's beautiful the way that works, okay? So hopefully that helps. All right, next up, let's talk about other contract considerations. Make sure your contract says that it is assignable without the seller's without their permission. You don't have to go back and get their permission to assign it. Make sure to say this contract is assignable, and they're signing it knowing that it is fully assignable. Sometimes I'll even have an initial and date right beside this where it says this contract is assignable. Right in the contract, I have an initial and date right beside that so they know that contract can be assigned to another buyer. And I just tell people, hey, look, I may buy the property, which I may as a wholesaler. I may flip it and do a quick flip, or I might fix and flip it. Or I say, hey, I may buy the property, but also work with a group of investors. One of us was going, may buy the property. We have a bunch of different LLCs. We don't know who's going to buy it. I just let them know we got to have an assignable contract because we don't know which LLC is going to buy it, which is absolutely true, right? Make sure you have all the sellers sign and date it. For instance, in the state of North Carolina, you can buy a property with just one seller. In other words, the husband or wife can buy a property, but they both have to sign to sell a property. So you got to have both their signatures on the contract. You can't sell that property. You can't close it. So make sure all the sellers have signed the date. If you're working with if you pinpoint it like a probate property, make sure whoever's, all the heirs have signed it. If it's in probate or whatever the case may be, you want to make sure that everyone has signed and dated it that needs to, okay? Make sure you allow enough time to market the property, right? If you're wholesaling it, give yourself some time through a due diligence period or something like that, or the closing date out there that you have time to, sign that contract over. Or if you're going to fix and flip, enough time for you to go ahead and get in an estimate done by a contractor, or whatever the case may be. And then, are there any back taxes owed? Make sure you do a preliminary title search to make sure you can search that through your own county if you want to. You can do that there, but make sure that any back taxes that are potentially owed that you check and see that, that there. You can just call down to the county office and just say, hey, I'm looking at such and such address. Can you tell me if there's any back taxes? They'll tell you. Okay. What about earnest money? Well, in some states, you don't even have to put any money down on the property. If they're in pre-foreclosure, if you pinpointed a pre-foreclosure property and they are, I'm not even going to give them any earnest money. In the state of North Carolina, you don't have to give them earnest money. Now, if you live in a state that requires earnest money, then you might have to give them $10. They say, look, I'm just putting down a negligible amount of earnest money. I'm going to go ahead and help you out of the situation. I'm not going to give them, if they're, now some sellers are going to push back on that. You may have to give them, $100 or $500. But most of the time, I'm just going to say, hey, look, I'm going to throw a $10, earnest money here so we'll have something in there. We're going to go ahead and get this thing closed to get you your money or get you out of the situation or whatever the case may be. And then you may want to have a separate compensation agreement. Now, you can put your your assignment fee right in the assignment contract. A lot of investors do that. A lot of wholesalers put the assignment amount in the assignment contract. Or you can have a separate escrow invoice or a separate invoice that you have the buyer sign that saying they're going to pay you $5,000 or whatever it is. So you can do a separate invoice. Some of them put it right in the assignment contract. Whatever you want to do is fine, but that's how easy it is to do that. All right. And just make sure you have the buyer sign off on that if they're willing to pay you. Okay. They have to sign somewhere, either on the assignment contract saying you're going to get the money, or they got to sign the buyer. I'm talking about the investor buyer, or they got to have I use an escrow invoice sometimes where I just submit that to the attorney and I get paid at closing. Sometimes I do it that way. Sometimes I get paid right when the contract is signed. That's up to you. But either way you want to do it is fine. So that's what you're looking at there with the compensation agreement. So make sure that you go ahead and have some type of compensation agreement, whether it's an escrow invoice, or maybe it's a situation where you have a right in your assignment contract. You can put in there. A lot of investors put it right in their assignment contract how much they're going to get paid for the assignment fee. And you could do all that right in the contract genie. It's all right there where you can do that. So hopefully that makes a little bit of sense, guys. And this is recorded, by the way. I can get you a copy of this if needed. So don't hesitate to reach out to me if you need a copy of this, and we can go back over it again. So just some contract considerations, some things you want to think about. Okay, what I'm going to do now, I have just about 2-3 minutes here. I can answer any questions, but I'm also going to open up my email address right here. If you have questions, you can shoot me an email, dmayners@connectedinvestors.com. That's my direct email. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. You can also ask questions right now. If you want to put a question in the question box, I'll be happy to answer it. So feel free to do that. And I'll take a minute to answer any questions you have. But guys, getting these properties under contract, you can see there's not that much to it. Basically, number one, you got to find the offer amount. You do that with the 70% rule. You can use, a local agent to help you get the comps. If you're not sure about how much it's worth after repair value, you can use our BPO app, right? One of the apps we have to do that. You can use the Trulia. You write in pinpoints. You can click on the comps and go over to Trulia and not use the Trulia value, but scroll down and look at the actual comps in your area. You know, how much are those properties worth that are within a mile of that property close by that are similar size, right? How much did they sell for, in other words? You can use those comps. So there's a lot of things you can do to help you with the after repair value. But you want to get that. And once you have the after repair value, you've done the 70% foot rule, you find the maximum allowable offer. Again, use the FAST formulas app for that if needed. You can go ahead and get in there and know exactly how much you need to offer as a wholesaler, right? Make sure you subtract out what you want to make as a wholesaler from the maximum allowable offer. You want to make $5,000 or whatever it is, and that's what you're going to offer on the property. Then from there, as I mentioned, you're going to get into your due diligence, the contract, getting that contract. You're going to have a purchase and sale agreement or offer to purchase contract that you're going to do with the seller, and then you can have an assignment contract you're going to do with the buyer. You'll sign it over for a fee. Guys, so it's not that complicated. Don't be scared of it. You've got those out contingencies I mentioned. Put a due diligence period right in your contract that states during the due diligence period, the buyer may get out of the contract for any reason or no reason up to this particular date, right? And you can have that right in your contract. It gives you an out should you not be able to move forward. Or put in there that, you know, contingent on loan approval or contingent on partner approval. You know, something in there to get you out of that contract if needed. And again, I'm not an attorney, I can't give legal advice, but this is what a lot of investors do, okay? So I don't see any questions come through. Well, guys, thanks for being on the call today. On behalf of Ross Hamilton, our CEO, I'm glad that you're here. Again, hopefully this helps you to kind of move forward, spring forward, and go out there and get some properties under contract, right? Get that up and running, because I think you'll absolutely be super excited when you start getting those properties under contract and move forward. So again, thanks for being on the call. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for being part of Connected Investors. Get out there, pinpoint some properties, get them under contract, start making some money. So have a fantastic rest of the day. We'll see you. Bye-bye now.